Hello students, we are going to take up a quick revision of nitric acid. Okay, क्लास 10 का नाइट्रिक एसिड का ये चैप्टर बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग है, छोटा है और this is a very important chapter. Okay, so the formula is HNO3. HNO3 को लैब में प्रिपेयर करते हैं from niter. Either we can take potassium nitrate or we can take sodium nitrate. तो अगर हम लेते हैं potassium nitrate KNO3, right, इसका हम concentrated solution लेते हैं and we treat this with concentrated sulfuric acid. We take ratio 1:1 and keep the temperature below 200 degree centigrade. So we get potassium hydrogen sulfate and nitric acid is formed. Now children, इस पे question ये आ सकता है कि why we take concentrated sulfuric acid, why we can take hydrochloric acid. So we can't take hydrochloric acid. The reason is because it is a volatile acid. Okay, so and nitric acid is also a volatile acid, so you cannot prepare a volatile acid from another volatile acid. Okay, then why we keep temperature below 200 degrees centigrade? In order to avoid formation of potassium sulfate, right? Because potassium sulfate is going to spoil the apparatus and it is going to consume the fuel, right? And the product form will make the will deposit in the apparatus. Okay, so it is a hard solid, sodium or potassium sulfate. Is this clear? Then the question may be asked like why we have taken the retort. Okay, so the retort is taken, the glass retort is taken so that the vapors are immediately, nitric acid vapors are formed and nitric acid vapors are immediately condensed. Okay, so nitric acid is collected, actually the vapors are there, so they are immediately condensed. Then next we take up the manufacturing method. For manufacturing we have Ostwald process. Now here children, T is silent in Ostwald process. What do? We take ammonia gas and we take ऑक्सीजन, राइट. दिस इज चलन ये वाला रिएक्शन हमारा अमोनिया में भी था, ये रिएक्शन यहाँ पर भी है, तो इसलिए दिस रिएक्शन बिकम्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. सो व्हाट विल हैपन, दिस इज अ कैटालिटिक रिएक्शन वेयर कैटालिटिक ऑक्सीडेशन ऑफ अमोनिया टेक्स प्लेस. 4 ammonia with 5 oxygen in presence of platinum. Again temperature 700 to 800 degrees centigrade and you get 4 nitric oxide and 6 water. Since the reaction is exothermic, you get energy. Okay, so this is the first step, right? First step is a catalytic step जिसमें platinum यूज होगा, temperature 700 to 800 है और ammonia and oxygen will combine to form nitric oxide, right? Now second is the oxidation chamber where this nitric oxide जो बनती है, this is treated with oxygen क्योंकि हमने oxygen कितने times लिया, 8 times. So along with nitric oxide, oxygen is also there. So these two gases, they enter into the oxidation chamber and here the temperature is 50 degrees centigrade. So second step हमारा क्या हो जाएगा, nitric oxide plus oxygen at 50 degrees centigrade will form reddish brown nitrogen dioxide gas. Now this reddish brown nitrogen dioxide gas and excess of oxygen is again traveling. So you have nitrogen dioxide, you have oxygen, and from the top in the absorption tower water is falling down. So what happens in the third step, 4 nitrogen dioxide, 2 molecules of water, 1 molecule of oxygen forms 4 nitric acid molecules. Okay, right? And this nitric acid is then collected. Is this clear? So this is how we prepare nitric acid through Ostwald process, right? Now the question may be asked, this dilute nitric acid is collected, right? Can be further concentrated, yes or no? Yes, it can be further concentrated, right? And at which does it form any azeotrope? Yes, it forms an azeotropic mixture, boiling constant boiling point mixture at 68%. Okay, आफ्टर दिस आता है हमारा नाइट्रिक एसिड के बाद नाइट्रिक एसिड इज पेल येलो इन कलर. So if you take pure nitric acid, then that is colorless. But if it is 68% or less than that, then it is yellowish in color due to dissolved nitrogen dioxide. It is highly corrosive and non-poisonous, sour in taste. Okay, and when it falls on the skin, it forms painful blisters, but it also turns skin yellow. So it gives a xanthoprotein test, right? If we talk about the chemical properties, then 4 nitric acid will always break into 4 nitrogen dioxide, 2 water and 1 oxygen. Because of this, it acts as strong oxidizing agent, right? Now dilute nitric acid acts as normal acid. Okay, so if you take dilute nitric acid, suppose you take NaOH and treat this with dilute nitric acid HNO3. So like any other acid, it is going to combine with base and form salt and water. So this is when the acid is dilute. When the acid is concentrated, then in that case, instead of nitrating, now it becomes an oxidizing agent. Okay, so now if we take up the reaction with copper, so if we take copper and treat this with nitric acid, then it will oxidize copper into copper nitrate, right? Water will be formed and nitrogen gas will be formed. Okay, we take 4. Is this clear? So remember, when copper tree is treated with nitric acid, now this is concentrated nitric acid. So copper with concentrated nitric acid combine to form copper nitrate, which is blue in color, right? You get water and reddish brown nitrogen dioxide gas is released. Okay, now if we take, this is when the nitric acid is hot and concentrated. If we take copper and we treat this with dilute HNO and the nitric acid is cold, then in that case 3 copper combines with 8 HNO3 nitric acid, forms 3 molecules of copper nitrate, right? 4 molecules of water, and very interesting, children, here it forms nitric oxide. So how will you know the acid is dilute or concentrated? You take copper, right? So if the acid is dilute and cold, then nitric oxide is formed. If the acid is concentrated and hot, then you will get reddish brown fumes. So copper is actually copper or zinc or iron. They are used to distinguish between the two types of acid. Is this clear? Now copper combine, sorry, not copper, कार्बन combines with nitric acid. हमारे कोर्स में कार्बन, सल्फर और कॉपर के रिएक्शन है. सो अगर हम कार्बन लेते हैं और नाइट्रिक एसिड के साथ रिएक्ट करते हैं, तो नाइट्रिक एसिड is going to form, ये break करेगा into nitrogen dioxide, water and oxygen, and that oxygen will combine with carbon to form carbon dioxide. तो हमारा reaction होगा carbon dioxide, water and nitrogen dioxide. Balance करेंगे 4 nitric acid, we'll get 2 water and 4 NO2. Likewise, अगर carbon की जगह हम लेते हैं sulfur, तो sulfur will react with nitric acid, will form sulfur dioxide, water and nitrogen dioxide. ये sulfur dioxide further water के साथ react करेगा and is going to form H2SO4. Is this clear? So इसी को balance करते हैं. 1 sulfur with 6 nitric acid is going to form 1 molecule of H2SO4 plus 2 molecules of water and 6 molecules of nitrogen dioxide. तो children, 3 reactions बहुत important है हमारे कोर्स में, especially mentioned है. एक, what happens when nitric acid is treated with copper. Second, when carbon and sulfur they combine with nitric acid. इनको आपको बहुत अच्छे से प्रैक्टिस करना है. बैलेंस रिएक्शन लेनी है आपको, ठीक है. Now next we take up, how will you know that the acid is nitric acid? So we have brown ring test. Okay, brown ring test में हम क्या करेंगे? We take up nitric acid. Instead of nitric acid, we can take any other nitrate salt. Okay, the idea is to confirm NO3. ये टेस्ट हमको NO3 बताता है, ठीक है? So we take nitrate or nitric acid, right? And to this we add freshly prepared same amount FeSO4. Okay, we pour gently, right? Now from the side of the test tube, we slant the test tube, and then from the side we slowly add concentrated sulfuric acid. Okay, so what will happen? The ferrous sulfate will combine with sulfuric acid and nitric acid. So nitric acid here will act as oxidizing agent. Okay, and right, it is going to form, it will convert ferrous sulfate to ferric sulfate. So you will get ferric sulfate Fe2SO4 whole thrice plus water is formed and nitric oxide is formed. This nitric oxide will combine with ferrous sulfate, right, to form नाइट्रोसोफेरस सल्फेट, और ये नाइट्रोसोफेरस सल्फेट का एक ब्राउन रिंग बन जाएगा एट द जंक्शन ऑफ टू लिक्विड्स. तो जहाँ पे फेरस सल्फेट और नाइट्रिक एसिड कंबाइन कर रहे हैं, इस जंक्शन पे जब सल्फ्यूरिक एसिड आएगा तो यू विल गेट अ ब्राउन रिंग फॉर्म्ड ऑफ नाइट्रोसोफेरस सल्फेट. द मोमेंट यू शेक, what will happen? This is tied by a weak bond, so it will break and brown ring will disappear. Is this clear? So remember, this brown ring test is very important test. It confirms the presence of nitrate or nitric acid, right? Remember, you have to take freshly prepared ferrous sulfate, because if you take the kept one, then it will be already converted into ferric sulfate, and this property of formation of NO and brown ring formation will not be observed. Is this clear? तो ये था हमारा नाइट्रिक एसिड कंपाउंड. चिल्ड्रन बहुत इजी है. नाइट्रिक एसिड सबसे छोटा है. अगर आप HCl अमोनिया में देख रहे हैं तो नाइट्रिक एसिड सबसे छोटा है बट सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट. ओके, तो इसके बैलेंस रिएक्शंस कीजिएगा. राइट, ऑल द बेस्ट. थैंक यू.